What's coming up on today's show? The 2025 World Rowing Championships recently concluded in Shanghai. Canada took 8th place overall in the PR3 mixed cox fours. Stuart Chase was a member of that team, and he joins the show to discuss his competition. You won't want to miss it. This is PSN.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Hello everyone, it's Nathan Clement in the command seat yet again, as Alex right now is stuck in queue at the grocery store fighting for the last maple ham for Thanksgiving dinner. So hopefully Alex is able to get the ham and get back soon. But joining me today is Jeff Ryman. Now Jeff, there's some big news going on in the hockey world at this moment. You had Connor McDavid sign his contract. You have the NHL season starting this week. But maybe the biggest news of all is the 2025 Carnegie Cup rosters have been announced.
Yeah, they have been. They were announced earlier this week. And if you're unfamiliar with the Carnegie Cup, it's taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada, December 19th to 21st. Now, this is essentially a selection from the Blind Hockey League that is bringing in, it's not Canada versus USA, it's just a showcase, right? So these are the top players that have been chosen by a committee, and these players come from all across the world. So there's primarily Canadian and American, and I believe there's one person who's from England who will be partaking in the Carnegie Cup. So this is really an international event, Nathan, and we're starting to see that, of course, expand over into Europe. So hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll see even more international players at the Carnegie Cup. But they did announce their rosters. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these players, Nathan. You can find it on Instagram at Blind Hockey League. They have their announcement. They have it broken down into each category, B3, B2, and B1. Really no surprises. Some of the people that have stood out and some of the players that we've had on our show, or at least, we've spoken to in previous incarnations, whether that's us being actually at a blind hockey event or on different programs or what have you. Just going through the list here, Tim Kane, who's an American, really good player for Team USA. Chaz Mizoraka, who we've had on our show while we were at the 2025 Canadian National Blind Hockey Championship in Toronto this past year. Liam O'Callaghan, Thomas Raymond, Kelly Serbu, who's of course the captain of Team Canada. Jason Yuha, another really elite player. Mark DeMontis, who's been the staple of blind hockey in Canada and probably even at this point now globally. We also have Bruno Hash, Amanda Provan, who's I think the first ever female player to suit up for Team Canada at an international event. Simone Richard. The goalies are Joey Cabral, Doug Goist, Oliver Pye, and Gary Steves, who's also been a staple on the back end for Canada and just for blind hockey in general for literally decades. So a pretty big announcement here from the BHL. And of course, Nathan, this all kicks off December 19th in Las Vegas, Nevada. So some pretty big news coming from the world of blind hockey.
It's such an exciting tournament. It's such an exciting time as this cup keeps growing every single year. Remember when it was back in Ottawa a few years back and they got the chance to play on the Senators ice there and just how big that was. And now this is partnership with the Henderson Silver Knights of the AHL, and just these steps going forward is really amazing. And even to have Nathan Matthew Trees from England playing, Amanda Proven, and just so many star-studded names. This is an exciting sort of time for blind hockey, as we've been able to have Luca DeMontis, Mark DeMontis, and so many other people on the program, and they've been so generous and kind with their time, really sharing their stories. And as this is one thing Alex and I have talked about, but especially yourself, Jeff, and me, and everyone associated with Parasport Nation, we talk about how this sport can boom, how this sport can grow. When you get that attention, when you get that opportunity to be in the bright lights of Nevada, when you get to go down there for a major tournament, it's really exciting and really amazing just to see the year by year evolution of blind hockey in Canada, but also in the United States.
Yeah, it really is. And it sort of just dawns on us like every couple of months just how substantial the growth is. I just started following a blind hockey program in Calgary. They just got an Instagram account literally earlier this week. So they're growing on multiple fronts, obviously via social media. They're gaining a ton of players. And yeah, going down to Vegas. I mean, we just had Luka DeMontis on a couple of weeks ago. He was in Vegas for the NHL media tour. So the NHL is definitely taking note of this program. Hockey Canada is now on board. USA Hockey has been on board with their blind program for a number of years now. So you're right. I mean, it just seems like every couple of months, the sport just goes to the next level. And of course, with anything hockey in this country, Nathan, is that it's just going to keep going up and up and up. So the sky is really the limit, and it's just incredible to watch the growth in such a short period of time.
I'm going to throw a hard ball at you right here because you've been able to go to a lot of the blind hockey tournaments and really see them play on the ice. I haven't had that privilege yet, but is there any players on that roster that maybe stand out to you? This is still a few months away, but when that time comes in December for the tournament, we'll definitely be talking about it, covering the build up to the tournament and the tournament itself. But is there any players, like looking at that roster list, that really jump out at you who's a must-watch player, like even go on YouTube or go on Instagram or TikTok to see their highlights and see their play?
You know, I think any one of these players is obviously worthwhile to Google, to go on YouTube, to go on Instagram, TikTok. But of course, I think, you know, there's two staples here in Canada that have been there for a long time. And Kelly Serbu, you know, the first time that I watched blind hockey, he was at the event, I believe, in 2017. So it's been almost a decade. Kelly had a long history of playing able-bodied hockey, and then now has made the switch to blind hockey, and he's been such a vocal point for the program and the national team. It's been incredible to watch him. And then Jason Yuha, I mean, he sort of redefined the sport. This guy came in, I believe the first tournament I saw of him was just before COVID, and he was, you know, head and shoulders, and this is with all due respect, he was head and shoulders above everybody else. Now that margin has narrowed, obviously, with due time and development of the programs and different players across different countries. But those two are really the two that stick out to me, at least from the Canadian perspective. So yeah, if you're gonna Google somebody, just Google Canadian blind hockey. They'll have a ton of highlights, but those two players have really been a staple. And of course, Mark DeMontis. I mean, he's won awards literally from the NHL as well. A very vocal member of that community and a really good hockey player, might I add. So yeah, just Google Canadian blind hockey. Follow them on Instagram, and you'll see the special talents of all these hockey players.
Yeah, it's so incredible. Just the skill level is just keep climbing, but also that's the case in so many other sports too. And we just had the World Championships in para rowing, and we're so lucky today to have Stu Chase join. And what an incredible conversation and dive into a sport that this is our first real chance to really talk about para rowing. And I'm so thrilled just to share this interview today that I got to sit down and speak with Stu Chase. So without further ado, let's go right into the interview. Stuart, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Stu, I want to start off with Canada took 8th place in the PR3 Mixed Cox 4 at the World Championships. How are you feeling after that accomplishment?
You know what? We've been home for a week now, and spent that week just reflecting on all the moments that took place over in Shanghai during the World Championships. What an incredible experience. Our entire crew in that boat was rookie status. None of us had been to a World Championship before. So on the one hand, we had that privilege of possibility where no one expected anything from us necessarily, but obviously we wanted to still perform to our best. And at the same time, just not be overwhelmed by the experience of being at a World Championship for the first time. And it all was incredible. The highs and the lows. You know what? It's all lends to the experience, and I think it's lit a fuel under our butts to be better next year.
You reached the finals, and in the finals, there's a little bit of an equipment malfunction. Can you take us through the experience and even the day of the finals and day of the race?
Sure, I'll even back it up to the first heat where Jay Burner, who sits in front of me in the boat, he relies on a prosthetic to row. I do not actually. I can row without one or with one. I did not have one. He did. And during our initial heat, his prosthetic failed completely. So his hand came right out of that socket and it was unrecoverable. We knew at that moment there was no chance to fight for a place in the race. So that was hard to take, but our team showed a lot of grit just getting across that finish line. And then we spent the next few days reviewing the data from the other boats as well as ours, and we knew it was going to be a 1v1 final V for us against Spain, and the numbers looked pretty good for us being able to take them, actually. So that was our hope going in. That was our goal, to defeat them, and we had a very rocky start to that race, which immediately set us behind. But we put in a really solid effort once we collected ourselves. We crossed that line feeling very proud of ourselves that we managed to make a race of it despite the rocky starts. So yeah, we got back to the docks feeling pretty proud that we pushed as hard as we did against Spain. And yeah, got back on the plane the next day after that. Hungry for more. How about that?
Well, those moments, especially when it's the first international race for a team, is the highs of getting the race in a final, but also there's so much experience and so much to grow there. And as you said earlier, it's that hunger, it's that drive that really builds you forward. But was there any big takeaways for you as an athlete, but also for the team as a whole after Shanghai?
For me as an athlete, I think just knowing the winter and spring and summer ahead for me are going to look a little more organized than last year. You know, we came together as the team in the last year. Now we have this team structure. I think we've got a good clear path as to what we want the next year to look like. So for me as an athlete, I've got that bit of anticipation just to feel more settled into what the expectation is going to be the next year and put the plan in place to make things happen for us. And I would say that's probably the team response as well. We are all here in Vancouver at this point. We're going to be able to train more cohesively and put our best foot forward on the world stage again next year.
As a para-rower, I'm a paracyclist myself, so often in the winter, I live in Vancouver as well, so we're a little more lucky being able to get outside, but what does winter training look like as a rower? Are you going to be out on the water? Are you going to do a lot of indoor training, or is it a mix of the two throughout the colder months?
Yeah, it's going to be a mix, and you're right. On the West Coast, we are lucky to be able to train on the water year-round. As long as the sun is out, we can get out on the water, so daylight hours. We're all looking to get stronger in the gym. So we will definitely have our strength and conditioning program dialed in a little more this year. And now we're on to rowing machine racing season, so erg season. So there's going to be a lot of that throughout the winter as well.
Is there a go-to app or anything that you do to get through those winter trainings when you're on the erg, or anything you watch or any music that you listen to that really helps you train and get to the best you can be as an athlete in the winter?
Well, through Canadian Sport Institute, we have our strength and conditioning pieces given to us. So I'm pretty focused in on what they lay out for me on the Team Builder app, and that really helps, dial in what I need to do in the gym. As for music, I have a very eclectic taste in music. It might be country, it might be hip hop, it might be 90s R&B, it might be Sarah McLachlan, another good local Vancouver, right? I will listen to whatever's in my ears, and I do love listening to music, especially on those long erg rows. You might be on there for a couple of hours in the middle of the winter, so just to be able to distract yourself from that and tune into music, that's always good.
I love the variety, and Sarah McLachlan's such a great choice for having that music come on during training. I want to go back to the start. You started rowing you've been rowing since 2018. How did you get involved in the sport, and can you share that journey of introduction to rowing?
So you can go as far back as me being a 10-year-old when I actually started in sprint canoe kayak. And I know you've spoken to Brianna Hennessy recently. So that was actually my go-to sport. I acquired my injury, my disability, when I had just turned 20. And I looked to para canoe kayak after that. And I was training at a high performance level with that sport for a number of years. Ultimately, that sport removed the upper limb impairment from their classification system, and it was around 2018 when I thought, you know what? I still feel like I've got some high performance to give. So I called Rowing Canada, said, this has been my history with high performance sports. If you can tell me that you're not going to remove upper limb impairments from that sport, I feel like this is something I want to move into. And that's where I started in 2018. So I did have the opportunity in early 2019 to race for Canada once at a World Para Rowing Regatta. Really caught the bug from that, feeling like this is something I'd like to continue on with. The COVID years were a little up and down. I had family commitments. I had work commitments that meant I could not pay enough attention to this program. But post-Paris, the program was really looking to rebuild. I reached out to them. They reached out to me. There were a bunch of new people identified as potentials to go into this particular mixed PR3 4 boat that we just raced in Shanghai. And it's just been forward momentum since then. So that's the short version of my history with this sport.
That's incredible. And in this year at the 2025 Henley Regatta, you won your first medal. What was that moment like, and how did it feel getting that medal around your neck?
Oh, yeah, that felt surreal, honestly. Just knowing the years of ups and downs and work that have gone into trying to be a capacity builder in this sport and a competitor and a contender, and to know that we'd beat a few internationals to get on that podium. At Henley, they only hand out the gold medal, so you've got to win to get in. And that was the first race that we had done as a crew to win that medal. So that felt really good. Kind of interesting to start up here, right? In terms of level setting your own expectations. For Jay in particular, that was his first ever rowing regatta. He went from 0 to 100.
Well,
that made us feel really positive about being able to build towards Shanghai towards the end of the summer there.
That's amazing. And just that forward momentum going to World Championships is so huge. And one thing so big with parasport now is just the activity on social media, and you do a great job of showcasing everything that you're doing training. Is there a favorite part of the sport that you love to capture, you love to show off to maybe your friends, family, fans, or even new people seeing your page for the first time?
Oh, you know what? Honestly, I think just the personalities behind what everyone sees on TV. It's just such a small slice of the life that every athlete lives, right? Even within our boat, we've got 4 completely different personalities. Right now, I'm just doing a little series of showcasing each of my teammates actually over the next couple of weeks here. So I think that's what's huge is behind all the training and all the racing and those little snippets that you see. There are real human beings with real lives, real families, real jobs in a lot of cases. And I think social media being able to shed a light on those sides of athletes is really cool.
Is there anything that you want people to really see or know most about the sport of para rowing?
I think para rowing holds something very unique, particular to the boat class that I'm in. If you look at all the other para sports available, there are other team sports, of course. Para basketball, there's wheelchair rugby, you've got goalball, you've got blind soccer in the team environments. And you, in terms of cycling as well, you would have a guide on a bike where you get the tandem opportunity. But when it comes to synchronized motion with multiple disabled athletes, I think rowing and the PR3 Mix 4 and now the Mix Double that is available, those hold pretty special places. So you've got this coming together of 4 people with completely different disabilities, different life stories, and you've got to find that perfect synchronicity in a boat together. And I think that's very unique to para rowing, and that is absolutely what I love about it, being able to find that graceful motion amongst very different life circumstances that are coming together to try and make this work.
It's one of those sports where just that camaraderie and that teamwork is so special and it's so beautiful to see. Like, I've gotten to meet so many rowers on the Olympic side, but now getting to speak with you and just seeing rowing as a whole, like growing up, it's such a sport where that camaraderie is so key and so important. And I'd be remiss being a Vancouver athlete, but also being in British Columbia if I didn't ask this. Do you have a favorite spot to row by yourself or as a team, and maybe Vancouver, but also in the province of British Columbia?
Question there. So I'm a club member at the Vancouver Rowing Club, and they have been huge in being able to develop me as a rower. So I owe a lot. And what a actually spectacular and unique place to be able to row. We row out of Cole Harbour. So you start in one end of Stanley Park and you head up Cole Harbour towards the Vancouver Convention Centre. So you've got this beautiful parkland and mountains on the north side of you. You've got this spectacular downtown building landscape on the other. just feels very unique. You're really in the middle of something there. It is a bit of a short course, but that also lends to a bit of skill development. So that is definitely a favorite for me. Burnaby Lake, a little further east, that's a great spot to row locally. I'm also very spoiled. My mother-in-law owns a house up at Whistler on Green Lake where we have not a rowing shell, but an oar board, which is a different type of trainer. And I get to row beneath the shadow of the mountains on a spectacular glacial lake up there, which is pretty special.
All those locations are amazing, especially like Cole Harbor with the city in the background, the mountains, and Green Lake is beautiful, but that's one lake you do not want to be jumping into. It is super cold.
You are correct. You are correct. Very cold. I've never willingly jumped in that lake. The rest of my family, they're all way braver than me. They'll swim in that lake quite happily. Not me. Not unless I'm falling in if I ended up in that water.
Yeah, then you're finding the boat. You're finding dry land right away if you're going into the lake there. But you've been able to travel through your sport a lot. Is there a destination or location you haven't been able to train in or race in yet that you hope to do? You hope to be there?
Oh, particular to rowing, there's a number of locations I have not yet been to. I've raced mostly locally, other than going to Varese in 2019 with the World Para Rowing Regatta, and now Shanghai. Next summer might prove to be the opportunity to tick off some of those bucket lists. We've got World Cups happening in Lucerne. The Worlds next year are in Amsterdam. So that's going to be incredible to be able to experience those places as long as we're up to snuff and can get there.
That's amazing. It sounds like with a sport like that, you get to go to so many amazing locations. And when you get to go to amazing locations, you get to try amazing food as well. Do you have any favorite food destinations that you've been to, whether it's in your sporting career, but also you do work in communications, PR, that you've been able to go to and travel and just experience?
I think when we were in Italy in 2019, the food culture in Italy is outstanding. You know, you stay within your training diet a fair bit, right? You're fairly focused on eating the right things, but Italy is amazing for that. Give me all the carbs, all the pizza, all the fresh pasta, all the bread. Fantastic. I have been lucky to travel in my personal life as well as through sports. Turkey is an amazing place to go and experience the food culture there. That's many years ago for me now. Gosh, that's such a big question. I don't think we even have time to necessarily answer it all, but there's a couple of examples for you.
Oh, there's so many great spots. And even I know Italy, just because of cycling, we have a lot of races over there. And when we are racing over there, we have the hotel is like owned by a family and they cook all the meals. And even though you're getting carbs, it's so fresh, lovely. And then they do a weekend pizza night, and that's just amazing. But kind of to end on this question, I'm really appreciative of your time, Stuart. Do you or the team have any pre-race rituals or superstitions or just traditions that you do before you hit the water and before you race?
You know, I'd say we're so new to the experience, we haven't necessarily established all those pieces of it yet. I can certainly speak for Jay. He locks in with the music, high energy, you know, he's going AC/DC, that kind of thing. And he gets pumped up by listening to those kind of tunes. I do like a bit of music myself, but just sticking to those comfortable, familiar, stretching, dynamic movement routines that doesn't matter what's going to happen in the race. This is something that you can focus on, that you know and your body knows. I think that's key for all of us.
That's amazing, and it's so true. It's just that familiarity is so important. But Stuart, really appreciative of your time today. Thank you for joining the show. Yeah,
this was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on today, Nathan. Appreciate it.
And that was our conversation with Stu Chase. What an amazing conversation. Got to bring up Sarah McLaughlin as a Vancouver lad. It's always amazing when we get to shine on our music stars, but also get to speak to a rising star in the scene in Vancouver and in parasport, coming from my local town in Stu, and just being able to talk to him and hear how that was a young squad, that was an up-and-coming squad at World Championships, and what they went through, and still to have that courage and strength, but also that resiliency. That's the stuff that sets you up for success in the years to come. And even just getting that first win earlier on in the year leading into World Championships, it's just really amazing just to be able to speak to someone like Stu and just see that kind of mentality come out. But was there any big takeaways from that interview for you, Jeff?
Yeah, there were a couple. I think one of the first ones for me is just that team chemistry aspect. You guys alluded to it a little bit in your conversation. He mentioned like everybody, and you mentioned it too, everybody has to be in sync, right? With rowing, you literally have to be doing the same motion at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to veer off to the side or you're just going to slow down. And all four of them have to be going at the same time. He mentioned one of his teammates had an equipment malfunction, and it just they couldn't handle it. Good showcase of resiliency, of course, gaining that experience, but that team chemistry on and off, it really stood out to me that, he's pumping up his teammates' tires with these little social media campaigns, which is, I think, really cool. Because if you want to form good team chemistry with each other, I think the off the field stuff, the off the water, the off the court interactions is big. That's really one of those things that stood out to me, is just how team involved he is with everybody. And there's four of them, and it looks like they're going to have a quite a big off season here, and just gaining that next level of experience, I think, is going to be key for the whole team's development.
The big thing that he said that really stood out to me, and Alex and I have highlighted this in the past, is how everyone's together in the same city for training. And especially I definitely dove into the winter side of training with him, as that's something that I'm so curious about being a cyclist. But just being able to have that kind of time together, that time spent in the gym, that time spent maybe on the water, on the erg, the indoor machines in the winter, really builds that kind of calluses that you need to be a top performing team and be able to handle whatever comes your way. And that's the great thing about sports. There's a lot that comes your way at different times. And I know for yourself, Jeff, you were patrolling the news, and there was a story that really spoke to you of athletes battling adversity and challenges.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is a bit of a lighter challenge, if you will, depending on which way you go. But there's this new trend on TikTok, I believe it is, and people in Denver is the article that I was reading. Basically what you do is you fill up on as much Taco Bell as you can and then try to run 30 miles. It's called the Taco Bay 50K Ultra Marathon. It returned to Denver on Saturday, October 4th, and it combines long distance endurance running with an infamous fast food twist. So 30.9 miles. It challenged you to visit 10 Taco Bell locations across the city and eat at 9 of them before finishing within 11 hours. Sounds like a pretty extreme and dangerous sport to me, Nathan. You're really playing with fire when you're eating that much Taco Bell and running. It almost reminds me of the beer mile. I've seen videos of that where you take a can or a bottle of beer every lap that you do for 1 mile around a track. Again, playing with fire there. But Nathan, I want to throw this over to you. Do you have any interesting food and sort of training stories that that you look back at and you're like, oh boy?
Oh man, there's so many that we can dive into. But first off, when you sent me that story, it reminded me of the Monty Python sketch of the marathon for people with small stomachs. That was definitely what that reminded me of. But there's so much, especially in the sport of swimming, that came to mind. Is as a swimmer, we would have the 100-meter challenge, where after every 100 meters, you would have to drink a carton of chocolate milk, and we pretty well be the survival of the fittest. I never did it. I never dived in. I did try it with Gatorade one time, but it was rough. I couldn't drink anymore after 2 100 meters. So that was really bad. But especially as a cyclist now, I've been so lucky with the sport that you burn so many calories that you're able to intake so much. And there's times when I've definitely gone to a Costco, gotten a hot dog or 2 or 3 and use that as a mid-ride fuel. But I even think back to when I biked across BC, I was just going to every single gas station imaginable and just getting gas station meats, getting gas station pizzas, getting gas station candies, and just filling up on energy drinks. Anything that would get me to that finish line, anything that would get me to that city on that day. But we could get real gross, really disgusting, but we don't want to go there. We don't want to lose our G rating, so we're going to leave it there, at least on my side. But is there any food that you've seen an athlete eat in a game, in a match? I know Mac Jones ate 11 bananas, or that's the rumor on the street, but is there anything that you've seen in your time as a sports fan that's like, why are you doing that?
We've seen people eat hot dogs on the sideline before. I thought that was kind of an interesting choice, especially during a football game. You sometimes see athletes down a beer before. A lot of athletes say sugar. You know, you get Starbursts, you get those like Skittles, like stuff like that. Maybe just a little extra fuel. But yeah, I don't think anything. I've never seen anything too crazy. Usually, these athletes are pretty honed in with their pregame rituals.
Yeah, there's so many that you can like see. They don't go too crazy. Like obviously Marshawn Lynch with his Skittles every time they got a touchdown's one, or even how you take a shot of Hennessy before like every game. Like there's small little things that athletes would do. We don't need to talk about what Aaron Rodgers would do, but there's so many things, and that needs a whole conversation on a different day, on a different time. But unfortunately for us, we have run out of time for today's episode. For myself, Nathan Clement, and Jeff Ryman, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.